All right, hello and welcome to the Utah Puck Report. We keep getting to meet our new NHL players, NHL Utah, Utah in the NHL, and now we have an amazing opportunity to meet our GM, Bill Armstrong. Bill, how are you? Thanks for being on the show. First off,
Well, Jay, thanks for having me. So excited to be a part of this. It has been so exciting to go through this, and I can't tell you how excited we are as an organization to be in Utah, and it's a great thing. And the love the people of Utah have showed us has been incredible.
yeah, I mean we've been waiting for this for a long time, and many people like myself, we were just hoping to get back into the AHL. NHL wasn't even a dream of ours, so to have you guys here now is surreal to us.
Yeah.
And I've known of you for a long time before you were a GM, and let's do a quick introduction so that Utah gets to know a little bit about you. Can you take us back to where you're from? I know what kind of player you were, but will you kind of
Yeah.
tell Utah what kind of player you were?
Well, I wasn't pretty. I was mean. I was really mean if I could get there, So I was like a big defenseman that played really a team game, lived through his teammates, would defend his teammates, and host the rookie party, the Christmas party, the Halloween party, and make sure all my teammates were always taken care of. And I always thought, when you saw your teammate, in the future, that they'd want to hug you, because they knew how loyal you were and what you did for them. And so I always had that. And hockey was a huge part of my life. Funny story was my dad was from a really, really big hockey town where Bobby Orr's from. And my dad was so busy working, trying to provide for the family, forgot to sign me up for hockey. And in our neighborhood, I can remember on a Saturday, all these kids, there was massive kids my age in the neighborhood, all got their hockey bags and going to hockey. I was like, what's going on here as a kid, So finally I kind of clued in. I'm like, hey, listen, I want to play hockey. And my dad's like, yeah, we don't have time right now, I'm too busy or whatever. And so he said, I go do a year of figure skating, so I did, and came back to him the next year. I want to play hockey. And it's the greatest thing that he ever did, because he made me want it. He made me appreciate how hard it is to pay for the equipment and the ice time and all that stuff. So when I got to my first hockey game, I went out there like it was war, and those poor little 7-year-olds took a savage beating that day. But it was really, I had a love for the game from all the way through, and that hasn't changed. I'm 54 years old right now, and my love for the game hasn't changed. It's only increased.
From originally, where did you grow up?
Richmond Hill, Ontario, which is about it's just a suburb of Toronto. It was a really great place to grow up. It's kind of a mix of farmland and community, and everything revolved around the ice rink.
That sounds amazing. So you're saying from day one at 7 years old, you already knew you're the brute force guy.
Yeah. I mean, I knew that. It wasn't done through skill. It was outworking people, and I was just so much bigger than everybody, and that's my thing. I just tried to outwork people from the get-go, and that didn't change. I have the same philosophy nowadays. So it hasn't really changed for me, but that was my thing. Just trying to outwork people and make them pay a little bit of a price at the same time.
So at what age did you think you could start doing this for a living? Did you get drafted in the Bantam Draft, or when were you first noticed? Or
Yeah, so I was playing in Richmond Hill, and one of the kids in the neighborhood, he was a star. He kind of had the golden path. He was drafted early into the OHL, to the Oshawa Generals. He had an agent, and the agent was Anton Thun, and he saw me play in the same rink, and he said, "Listen, you're going to get drafted into the OHL. You just got to continue to work on your game a little bit." So he kind of inspired me, and then the ratings came out. I was rated pretty high, so I was lucky enough to have real good coaching. I went out to Barrie. It's about 45 minutes outside of Toronto, and there was a guy named Mike McCann, and he kind of groomed me a little bit, and kind of shaped me. And then I got drafted in the OHL into the Toronto Marlies, which is a pretty prestigious franchise at the time, and I ended up working my way through there into Oshawa, which was the #1 ranked team in Canada at the time, and Lindros and the boys were there, so I ended up somehow weaseling my way on that team, which was a pretty good ride for us. We went on to win the Morrill Cup, and I went from being undrafted to drafted, 46 overall in the draft. So it was a great ride, and again, it was just about being a great teammate, and making sure your teammates were taken care of, and being part of that team was a special year in my life.
What's it like playing with a guy like at that age to go play with a guy like Eric Lindros, who's getting all media attention available, and to know? And did you protect Eric Lindros?
I did. He went to fight once, and he knocked the kid out, and I said, "Don't you ever do my job again." So he was great because we loved the tension back then. And when we went to the rinks, they were all packed. When he showed up, he was like the next Gretzky or Lemieux, and it was just crazy the amount of attention that he brought to our team, and we loved it. We loved every minute of it, and he was such a hard worker. People don't realize how hard he was. Like he every practice was like war, but in a good way. And he made us all better. And I think when they made that trade for Lindros, that was kind of the moment that inside that locker room was like, okay, they're going for it here, And they passed out these shirts that said "Running Down a Dream," and it
Oh,
kind of planted a seed in our head, and we never looked back.
wow, that's amazing. Someday I'm really gonna want to sit and talk to you about all that, because man, that's a whole episode all on its own. Just those years.
Yeah.
Isn't it weird for a guy like you, your size and everything? Back in the '90s, weren't you almost always? It seemed like the WHL always went for the 6'5" guys, right?
Yeah. I mean, my size kind of got me over the hump in getting noticed, and I think my how hard I played the game. And as it went along, I even learned to play harder. Because there's a fighting component that comes in when you're that big. Everybody looks around and says, "Hey, you know, you're supposed to do something." So and that was a tough league back in the day where you had Domi and there's a couple other guys that were pretty big names, Louis DeBrusque and Troy Crowder, and those guys. It wasn't a fun league in some ways, but it sure did make you a
Yeah,
lot tougher.
yeah, I can only imagine. So I'm going to skip ahead a couple things, because I'm watching
Yeah,
the NHL playoffs right now, and I'm watching how Dallas played. And now you're a GM. You played your way, and you know the importance of how you played. And then I'm
yeah,
watching a team like Dallas that I thought the only reason they're not in the final right now is because they play too soft. Like, maybe I'm wrong. I've been married long enough to realize I'm wrong most of the time, but it seemed to me like they played a little soft. Do you think there is still room and need for a guy like how you play the game? And it seems to be like
well,
other guys are filling that role.
yeah. Yeah, listen. That role's got a lot harder because penalties, right? You can't take penalties. There's no clutching and grabbing, and to play big and play hard, there's a line you have to walk in the playoffs. And one of the reasons Dallas didn't win, they